Yes, good morning everyone. Okay, yes, good morning. 28 February 2022. Yes, as it is Monday, first of all we'll have some Monday motivation and then we'll start with the lecture. Okay, so today's story is about the story of the carpenter or the builder. And it talks about need to put in the 100% efforts on what we are doing at present. Okay, so the story is as it goes. So there was let's say a very good and skillful carpenter or the builder, and he is employed by his contractor, and throughout his lifetime he has built very good houses. Okay, and now he is willing to retire. Okay, so he goes to the contractor, his employer, and expresses his wish that he wish to retire now. So the carpenter is or the employer is worried about the future, but still he is happy, and he asks the carpenter to build one more house, last house. So yes, the carpenter reluctantly agrees to his wish. Okay, and start building the house. But as he is reluctant, so he puts less efforts, less skill into building that house. Okay, because he is very reluctant. It's his last house, and it is beyond his wish. ठीक है, उसको इच्छा नहीं है, फिर भी वो बांध रहे हैं. ठीक है, so but ultimately he completes the house, building that house, and the employer is now let's say talking to that carpenter, and he hands over the key to that carpenter and says that it is gift from me to you for whatever you have done in last 30 years. And the carpenter is shocked now. Carpenter is shocked. Why? Because he did not know earlier that he is building the house for his own self. If he would have been knowing that वो उसका house होता तो वो ज़्यादा efforts डालता. ठीक है, तो इसका मतलब क्या है, essence क्या है स्टोरी का? The story has essence that whatever the situation that you are in present, that is because of the attitude and choices that you had in your past. And whatever the outcome or the situation that you are going to face in future, it will be the result of attitude and choices that you are going to have at present. ठीक है, so yes, of course, the choice you have made here to give this examination, it is the choice in the past. And if you fail, suppose today in this examination, it is nothing but the choices you have made during this journey. Okay, the choice of getting early and following the timetable, the choice of the time management or putting the time in an efficient manner, or whether it the wasteful use of your time or resources. So all things are nothing but your attitude and choices that you are making throughout this journey, and ultimately the result will be your name in that list or not. ठीक है, the same is the case through your personal life, throughout your life journey also. ठीक है, तो I hope that you will implement this in your life now. Let's see which are the important articles. Okay. Look at the first page. Yes, India is engaged with all parties on Ukraine, Foreign Secretary. So yes, we are in contact with let's say the West Bloc led by US, European Union, and then we can say Russia on the other side. See, yesterday there was news that yes, Ukraine has now agreed to have talks with Russia. See, let's see what will be the outcome of this, and in meantime India is evacuating the students as much as possible continuously from Ukraine. ठीक है? Yes, this is the follow-up. Fine. Directly coming to the page number 6, editorial page. The other news are regional and political in nature. Okay, on left hand side you can see a testing vote. So the day before yesterday there was UNSC vote, and India voted to abstain from that vote. ठीक है, या resolution जो हम बोलते हैं. So the analysis is given here, the analysis about that resolution, and also we should understand that what is the stand that we have at present towards this conflict, okay, and the outcome or the impact of having such stand on India's interest in the world order या world politics जिसको हम बोलते हैं. Okay, on bottom side, no quick fix. Okay, so recently in one of the webinar, our Prime Minister has emphasized that there should be more and more private sector participation in health sector in India, or especially in education, health education. Okay, so he was referring to that many students are going abroad for the medical education, and he referred indirectly to Ukraine also. Okay, so so he is looking for opportunity, we can say, or the government is looking for opportunity to strengthen the education, medical education system in the country, so that the students do not go abroad, and whatever the talent that remains in the country, ठीक है, क्योंकि वो बाहर जाएंगे, वहाँ एजुकेशन लेंगे, तो उसका जो एक्रीडेशन होगा, उसके बाद इंडिया में उसका प्रैक्टिस होगा. सो इट मे टेक टाइम टू whatever the skills they are having there and here, so that accreditation should be in line with the accreditation that is followed in India. ठीक है, तो इसके लिए ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स होती है. सो ऑफ कोर्स yes, but the article analyzes this issue critically in a sense that whatever the private sector participation we observe in the engineering sector, so the fallout was to some extent negative or not that much, we can say that beneficial. Okay, so we need to be careful for the medical education. ठीक है. Okay, so that article again, the anatomy of India's Ukraine dilemma, completely we can say critical article is written. थोड़ा negative लिखा है, मतलब क्या करना चाहिए इंडिया ने, क्या नहीं उसमें. सो कोई एक बैलेंस्ड आर्टिकल आता है तो वो हम डिस्कस करेंगे, या फिर एडिटोरियल है ही लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में. ओके, यस, ऑन पेज नंबर 8, इंडिया टू फेस टफ चॉइसेस एट UNGA, यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली टुडे. there will be we are expecting the vote on this resolution, and after that vote there may be detailed discussion on the resolution adopted by UNSC, the resolution number 8979. ठीक है, so let's see how India will approach to this vote now. Okay, there is huge pressure being built by the Western countries and European countries on India. Okay, so whether India will have the same stand or it will change the stand, let's see what will happen. Tomorrow we can discuss that. Okay. Fine, so other news are political in nature. On text and context page, there is one news talking about the US and European led sanctions of SWIFT, okay, and how it will have the impact on Russia, basics of the SWIFT relevant to prelims examination, and the impact that is relevant to our mains examination. ठीक है, तो वो हम इस तरीके से डिस्कस करेंगे. लेट्स गो इन डिटेल. फर्स्ट आर्टिकल, टेस्टिंग वोट. सो रिसेंटली देयर वाज वोट, a resolution in UNSC drafted by US against Russia, and in that resolution India, we can say, voted to abstain from the resolution. Okay, so यानी कि किसी के फेवर में नहीं या अगेंस्ट में नहीं, रिजोल्यूशन के फेवर में भी नहीं और अगेंस्ट में नहीं. सो वी abstain from that. Like India, China also abstained from that resolution, but 11 countries out of 15, 5 permanent, 10 non-permanent members of UNSC, they voted to this resolution. Okay, so we can expect that here, of course, it is against Russia, and Russia is among the P5 countries, permanent 5 countries. So Russia vetoed this resolution. Okay, so permanent 5, P5, these countries are having veto powers. So any kind of resolution in UNSC can be vetoed by any one member or more than one member of this P5, and if that is vetoed, that means that resolution cannot be having effect. ठीक है, एक भी कोई भी member ने अगर veto कर दिया तो that cannot have effect. So Russia has of course vetoed because it is against Russia's action. In the past also Russia had vetoed the resolutions which had sanctions against Russia. Okay, so be it we can say 2008 Georgia conflict, so Russian forces entered into Georgia at that time, or 2014 Crimea annexation, Crimea Peninsula, again we can say of Ukraine. So at that time also Russia vetoed. So we can say that the same approach is followed here. But what is we can say that the concern for this Western coalition is that they are not able to change India's stand. India is the member of UNSC at present, 2-year stand, non-permanent member. ठीक है, 2022 के एंड तक चलने वाला है वो. So the coalition was unable to move India from its consistent position of abstention. Okay, so this is major concern from them. Yes, they were able to shift China from its support for Russia in the previous vote to abstention. Okay, how they could be able to do that? Because they changed the wording of resolution, and in that resolution earlier there was reference to chapter 7. This chapter allows for use of forces against that country. Okay, so a sanction of the use of force for that against that country. So this was removed. This reference was removed from the resolution. Then China agreed to abstain. ठीक है, तो पहले जो है चाइना ने यूएस के फेवर में वोट किया था. सो नाउ चाइना abstain from voting. हाँ, ठीक है. Yes. So now US and EU have adopted unilateral sanctions, including SWIFT. Okay, so many let's say countries, European Union countries, and we can say US, they adopted economic sanctions, unilateral economic sanctions, and they are waiting to have some kind of negative impact of these economic sanctions on Russia. See, any kind of aggression, okay, any kind of aggression, military aggression has some kind of, the sustenance time period. Beyond that, it cannot be sustained. It needs to be supported through economic activities. And when there is sanction through, let's say, such kind of economic sanctions by these countries in today's globalized world, so no one country can sustain such military aggression for a long time. Okay, so ultimately that player has to come on the negotiating table. ठीक है, तो ये ऐसे tactics use किए जाते हैं at present. Okay, in addition to that, US and Germany and other countries have announced weapon supplies to Ukrainian force. They are also looking for opportunities to train the Ukrainian force. Okay, so yes, this can be, helpful for Ukraine to some extent, but it has limitations. Okay, because the forces of US and these countries cannot enter to Ukraine soil, or we can say the air force cannot support the Ukraine army. So if in absence of such kind of actual support on the ground, supply of arms may not have huge impact or may not act deterrent to Russia. ठीक है, तो ये एनालिसिस हमें इस तरीके से करना है. Along with that, if we are talking about India's stand, इसको एनालिसिस करते हैं. Okay, so yes, we have our own reasons. What reasons we have here? First thing is that Russia is all-time ally. All-weather friend जिसको बोलते हैं ना, वो रशिया है हमारा. Okay, so since independence, Russia has been supporting India, especially on the UNSC resolutions on Kashmir dispute. Okay, Jammu and Kashmir, whenever it had UN resolutions, so of course Russia had vetoed such resolution on behalf of India. Okay, तो ये बहुत जरूरी है हमारे लिए, right? So that's why we cannot take stand against Russia here. ठीक है, so this one. Then along with that, our defense cooperation is there. Also, you should remember in 1971, when US forces were in Indian Ocean region and Bay of Bengal, US navies, and they were going to enter into the conflict between India and Pakistan. immediately India had a friendship treaty with Russia at that time. So Russia helped and that acted as a deterrence against US. Right? तो वो आउटकम कुछ और ही होता उस टाइम पे अगर मतलब यूएस इंटरवेन करता तो. Right? So that thing, then defense cooperation at present. Right? So all these factors to some extent, and the soft stand we have in international we can say levels. So we promote peace and non-violence or resolution of dispute in a peaceful manner. Okay, so by we can say negotiation, dialogue, this is what we promote at international level. So these are the reasons, that's why we abstain. Okay, the principled stand that we call it as. Okay, but yes, the European countries and Western countries, US, they did not like this stand, although Russia appreciated India's stand. ठीक है, जो principled stand है. Fine, let's see what will happen in near future. But yes, in the end, we should also understand that we cannot have this stand for long. If suppose Russia further, continues the military aggression, and that may have toll on the civilians. अगर civilians की death होती जाएगी, तो ये किसी भी country के लिए सही नहीं है. ठीक है? So today is Ukraine. To what? Which country is tomorrow? ठीक है, तो ये हम बोल रहे हैं कि जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जो है, जो मतलब गांधी जी ने जो बोला था, एन आई फॉर आई मेक्स वर्ल्ड ब्लाइंड, या फिर वायलेंस बिगेट्स वायलेंस, और जो आईआर में एक थ्योरी है जिसमें बोला जाता है कि वी आर नॉट सेफ व्हेन देयर इज वायलेंस इन आवर नेबरहुड. ठीक है, जो ऐसे बोलते हैं ना कि हाँ, so of course that's why we are concerned about the situation in Afghanistan. Also we are concerned this situation, although it is farther than the neighborhood, but we do not know when it will spill over into India's neighborhood. ठीक है, so up till what time we will have this neutral stand. Okay, and also we want to be a regional power and global power. So how can we be such power when we are making our stand, neutral stand in such major international events? Okay, or we are remaining at the periphery and not entering into that domain. So how we are going to be the regional power? That remains to be a major concern. Okay, so let's see in future we are going to have follow-up here. Now, India to face tough choices at UNGA, because there will be, we can say, once UNGA emergency session to discuss this resolution and vote upon it. Okay, so already US and European countries, they have garnered the support of more than 80-90 countries. They are further working on also putting pressure on India also to vote in favor of this resolution. Let's see what India may do. Okay, India has thus far refrained from supporting any resolution criticizing Russia, but the officials said that India's growing concern over humanitarian crisis. India is concerned about this, and Indian student caught in the crossfire in Ukraine could find a mention in new resolution, which could invite a rethink in New Delhi. ठीक है, अगर ये मेंशन होता है तो ऑफ कोर्स इंडिया के प्रिंसिपल्स पे क्वेश्चन हो जाएगा ना. देयर इज ह्यूमैनिटेरियन क्राइसिस एंड इफ इंडिया इज नॉट फेवरिंग दैट और नॉट सपोर्टिंग एक्शन अगेंस्ट इट, ठीक है, तो ये इंडिया के इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे जो स्टैंड होता है, ठीक है, टू अवॉइड एनी ह्यूमैनिटेरियन क्राइसिस, टू प्रोटेक्ट द ह्यूमन राइट्स, ये जो हम सॉफ्ट स्टैंड लेते हैं, प्रिंसिपल स्टैंड, सो दैट गोज अगेंस्ट दिस, नो. So this is how the nature or the content of resolution may change here. ठीक है? Let's see what happens. Okay. No quick fix. Prime Minister remarked to boost private sector in medical education. Okay. So he was talking about promoting private sector entities into medical education in the country. And this is the context. The most sought after international destinations for medical education, which are these, Russia and China. Okay, but why we are focusing on Russia and China? Because they are economical. Rather, if you are talking about quality wise, in the world, they are US, UK and few West European countries. But they are very costly. Okay, and that's why Indian students will not go to pursue medical education in these countries. Rather, they opt for other Asian countries, like we can say China is there, or we can say Russia is also there, and Ukraine has emerged as one of the major countries. Okay. Why? Because their commitment to public health care and to offer more affordable yet quality education. That's why it attracts Indian students also. Now, the medical education requires significant infrastructure. This infrastructure not only in terms of economic resources, but also human resource. Okay, so economic in terms of land and other important inputs, infrastructure, machinery is there. And human resource, the medical fraternity, we can say, yes, professionals, doctors, nurses. So they require the specific training, education. So this is the huge requirement. At present, it is, we can say, short in number or amount, as well as it is skewed in terms of more and more resources in urban areas and less resources in rural areas, despite more population is located in rural areas, less in urban areas. Okay, so it is skewed in nature. And also short, especially when you can give the numbers, WHO standard hota hai 1000 per doctor, one doctor hona chahiye. At present around 1600 people per one doctor we have in the country. Leave aside the specialist. ठीक है, specialist जो है वो tertiary care only in urban areas it is available, right? Then very less spending on health by the government. You can give certain facts also here. Around 1.1 or 1.2% of GDP is the public spending, public health spending. We have target of 2.5% of GDP of the the public health funding by the government. Without the long-term commitment to offer necessary training and postgraduate education, boost to private sector could lead to repeat of engineering fiasco after .com boom. तो ये क्या हुआ था? Especially decade of 2000. Decade of 2000. So it had seen the boost to engineering sector in the country. Okay, so we had liberalized our economy, and that demanded the supply of skilled professionals, engineers, because the manufacturing base was expanding slowly in the country, and service sector was also expanding, and that required IT professionals, right? So that boosted the engineering sector, and more private engineering colleges emerged in the country. And yes, government facilitated that through ease of the paperwork is there, or we can say approvals, everything. ठीक है, तो बहुत easily approval मिल जाता था इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज खोलने के लिए. तो बहुत सारे प्राइवेट सेक्टर ने बहुत सारे कॉलेजेस खोल दिए. However, there was lack of supply of quality teachers, okay, professors, and also the appropriate infrastructure required for practical knowledge. Okay, there was lack of industry and academia connect. And because of that, when these engineers graduated from these colleges, they did not have enough or appropriate skills that is required on the floor of the machine shop, okay, or in the industry. And they require further upskilling or appropriate skilling in the industries. So that was additional burden for the industries. So basically the unemployable engineers, they were created largely because of this boom. This should not happen for the medical sector, and largely we should understand medical sector is having direct connect with the people. Engineering का तो indirect है समझो, ये तो life and death का game है ना. तो वहां पे अगर लो स्किल वाले पर्सनल आते हैं तो यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द इम्पैक्ट ऑन ह्यूमन लाइफ. ओके, सो दिस शुड नॉट हैपन, एंड देयरफॉर एज अ वे फॉरवर्ड व्हाट वन कैन एक्सपेक्ट हियर, सो यस, ease of approval that can be given. At present very strict measures are there for approving the medical college. This first thing we can expect here, this will boost both private and public sector. Second thing is that, ensuring quality. Okay, so for this purpose, regulation is very important. Okay, medical education regulation. There should not be compromise on quality for the sake of quantity. ये medical education में, this is very very important. And then there should be many training centers for auxiliary staff, जो बोलते हैं ना, nurse and midwives are there or compounders are there, उनके लिए काफ़ी training centers होने चाहिए medical education along with MBBS colleges and those, we can say that. And then we can say appropriate let's say incentives should be given to work in rural areas. At present what we observe is there is compulsory nature of rural posting only for government institutions, medical institutions. ठीक है, प्राइवेट के लिए नहीं है. मेरा छोटा भाई जो है वो डॉक्टर ही है, ठीक है, तो मैंने देखा है उसने प्राइवेट कॉलेज से किया है, तो ऑफ कोर्स ही इज नॉट ऑब्लाइज्ड टू वर्क इन द रूरल एरिया. ओके, सो जो 1 साल का जो उनका कंपल्शन होता है काम करने का, 1 या 2 साल का, सो ऑफ कोर्स दैट इज not there in rural area. Only for government colleges it is compulsorily that they will be posted in rural areas. They have to complete that. Okay, so अगर private colleges को ये compulsion नहीं है तो it is not going to provide the services in rural areas because private works on profit basis, है ना. So yes, for that purpose there should be more and more incentives in terms of good infrastructure, good salary structure. ये सारी चीजें होनी चाहिए. Then only they will work in rural areas. ठीक है? Okay, so this should be mentioned in the way forward. Fine. Moving on, tackling the plastic pollution problem. There was one article, I guess I have missed here, on page number 7, op-ed page. Okay, and it talks about plastic pollution. Okay, yes. Now we all know that plastic is creating major environmental issue. Not only in India, but all other countries also. And many countries are working on phasing out the plastic altogether. Okay, especially the developed countries have successfully worked on this. Scandinavian countries, some of the Scandinavian countries, Europe में जो है. Okay, so first of all we should understand negative externalities or the impact on the environment of this negative impact of the plastic. So first of all we know that it result into water pollution, both riverine and major we can say marine pollution. You can see that marine aquatic life is hugely impacted because of this plastic, because whatever the dumping of plastic all over the world is happening, it is ultimately entering into oceans. Okay, and that is having huge toll on marine ecology, marine we can say animals. Now ultimately it will have the impact on those dependent on that marine life. Okay, so coastal communities, they are dependent on the we can say fish catch or whatever the we can say that fishing resources are there, तो उन पे भी problem होगा, right. In the end the amount of fish catch will reduce, ठीक है, और क्वालिटी फिश कैच विल रिड्यूस. ठीक है, सो दिस इज मेजर प्रॉब्लम. सेकेंड थिंग वी शुड अंडरस्टैंड द कंसर्न रिलेटेड टू फूड चेन, राइट. सो दिस प्लास्टिक इज नॉट डिग्रेडेबल easily through the we can say environmental actions, and it remains in nature for long period of time. It is not easily biodegradable, right. So ultimately it moves in the food chain. Okay, and it may be we can say harmful for certain animals in that food chain. ठीक है, accumulation of that plastic in those animals may be harmful. ठीक है, तो ये आपको पता होना चाहिए, the concern related to food chain. Bio accumulation जो हम बोलते हैं, ठीक है, या bio magnification, but it is not bio magnification, it is bio accumulation related concern. Right. The third concern you can mention on the coastal communities I was talking. Fourth concern you can talk about soil pollution and decline in soil productivity. Okay, this is also major concern, especially in urban areas. It is creating problem. Nowadays, it has trickled down into rural areas also. Use of plastic. Okay, so negative impact or negative externalities, you should be aware about this. ये जो है प्लास्टिक जो है ये रिवराइन और मराइन इकोलॉजी में ब्रेक डाउन होके इट बिकम्स अ मेजर कंसर्न ऑफ माइक्रो प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन. वी हैड डिस्कस दिस इवन इन ईडी लेक्चर. ओके, माइक्रो प्लास्टिक्स, they are actually the concern. Microplastic is directly used in cosmetics largely, and some of the microplastics are also generated by breaking down of these plastics, the major plastics that we use here. Okay, larger plastic goods. तो ये हम बोल सकते हैं कंसर्न है मरीन इकोसिस्टम के लिए. Now, evaluating the approach of complete ban on the use of plastic. So many states in India also, they have the complete ban on the plastic, like Maharashtra. Okay, and huge severe penalty is imposed not only on the vendors who are selling, but also the consumer who are using that plastic bag. ठीक है, so complete ban. So yes, of course it is having some positives in a sense that it will wipe out the use of plastic, it will have a positive impact on the environment, also we can say riverine ecosystem, marine ecosystem, ये सारा चीजें हम लिख सकते हैं. But yes, negative impact especially on the economy. We know that plastic is very important commodity nowadays in each and every economic activity, be it in terms of production or we can say packaging or ultimate consumption. ठीक है, तो उसके लिए काफी इंपॉर्टेंट हो गया है. एंड वी नो दैट मेनी पीपल आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन दिस. ओके, सो मेनी पीपल आर एम्प्लॉयड इन दिस इंडस्ट्री, मेनी पीपल आर डिपेंडेंट इन द इकोनॉमिक साइकिल, एंड इफ द प्लास्टिक इज ऑल टुगेदर बैंड, यू कैन इमेजिन दैट दे आर नाउ लेफ्ट अनएम्प्लॉयड. ठीक है, तो सडन ये इकोनॉमिक शॉक अगर उनको एब्जॉर्ब करने के लिए दूसरा मतलब एवेन्यू नहीं है, अल्टरनेटिव नहीं है, तो दिस इज गोइंग टू लीव देम अनएम्प्लॉयड. तो ये निगेटिव इम्पैक्ट हम बोल सकते हैं, स्पेशली इन डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया. ओके, सो यस, इवैल्यूएशन में हम पॉजिटिव्स एंड निगेटिव, प्रोज एंड कॉन्स दोनों लिखते हैं. ठीक है, यस. Now, the environment regulation for plastic may include command and control approach and fiscal reforms like eco tax and subsidies. How it works? Command and control approach talks about regulation. Okay, regulation, there can be ban or regulation in the use of plastic. Like in India, central government through that plastic management rules under Environment Protection Act 1986, it tries to manage and regulate the use of plastic in the country, and slowly it is trying to eliminate harmful plastics. है ना, एक साइज उन्होंने माइक्रॉन्स में दिया रहता है, उसके लोअर साइज पे वो अलाउड नहीं है. ठीक है, वो यूज ऑफ प्लास्टिक. सो इट इज कमांड एंड कंट्रोल अप्रोच, एंड व्हेन दोज हु आर यूजिंग दैट what we can say products, so on them there can be taxes and subsidies to those alternative products to those plastics can be given by the government, so that people do not use plastic and use the other products. For example, gunny bags are alternative to plastic bags and they are ecologically sustainable. Okay, they provide employment to people also. तो ये उसको सब्सिडीज दी जा सकती है, so that the products become cost effective. ठीक है, तो this subsidies to those, and the taxes on the use of plastics or production of plastic also and consumption. So such kind of eco taxes may be imposed in various stages of production and consumption of this plastic. Production level पे भी and consumption level पे भी. Okay, so the efficiency of such regulation depends on its architecture. Architecture in a sense that how well it is designed, how well it is being executed. Okay, so many times what happens, policy level, of course there is very good design of this regulation. ठीक है, penalties होगी, implementation के लिए सब कुछ होगा, but on the ground it is not implemented efficiently and effectively. Okay, so of course it is not going to result into positive outcomes. ठीक है, then ultimately we can say that the comprehensive policy measures against the plastic may generally involve 3 complementary activities. अब complementary activities में हम ये सारी चीजें बोल सकते हैं, right? So along with regulation there can be segregation of different plastics, because plastic is not one commodity. Within that commodity there are different types of plastics. Some of them can be recycled, some of them cannot be recycled. One time use plastic है ना, और हाँ single use plastic. Some of the plastic have multiple use. Okay, so segregating them and accordingly having the policy towards them. Then we can say that promoting people for reuse. So reuse, recycle and we can say reduce. जो 3R वाला जो फंडा होता है ना, क्या होता है 3R? Reduce, reuse, recycle, and that should be written in a sequence. Reduce first should be, we can say reduce. अगर reduce नहीं हो पा रहा है तो at least reuse. Okay, whatever you have purchased that plastic, try to reuse. If you are not able to reuse, then recycle. ठीक है, तो ये sequence में आएगा. Okay, so 3 R's should be promoted. So this should be the complementary aspects along with regulation. And ultimately we can say the other measures that should be promoted, the alternatives should be given some alternatives. Incentives to alternative. Education, awareness among the people on harmful effect of. ठीक है, तो ये साइमल्टेनियसली होना चाहिए. अगर स्कूल से ही स्टूडेंट्स को, बच्चों को बताया जाता है कि हाउ इट इज हार्मिंग द नेचर, सो दिस विल क्रिएट सम एटीट्यूडनल चेंज. दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Okay, when the people are not aware about the negative impact, so of course they will use plastic because it is one of the most convenient product, है ना. Even if we are talking about the students, suppose here in ORN, each and every vendor, even if you buy 5 rupees, 10 rupees commodity, they will give the plastic to you, that plastic bag. And on an average, the student is, if you buying anything including books, so they are having 1 or 2 plastics daily from the market and they are throwing it daily in the garbage. You can imagine this thing. So you yourself should make this habit to deny the vendor to give that plastic. ठीक है, if you are buying the vegetable, ठीक है, तो आपने खुद से ही कॉटन का लेके जाना चाहिए. हाँ बिल्कुल, you should carry the cotton bag with yourself. I myself carry that. ठीक है, अगर मुझे वेजिटेबल खरीदना है तो मैं खुद से घर से कॉटन बैग लेके आऊँगा. टिफ़िन बैग्स मेरा है तो मैं ट्राई करूँगा कॉटन वाला या गनी बैग वाला ही मैं कैरी करूँ. या बुक्स आप खरीद रहे हैं मार्केट से, सो दे देमसेल्फ दे डू नॉट अंडरस्टैंड द सिवियरिटी, नो. सो व्हाट यू कैन डू, यू कैन डिनाई दैट यूज एंड यू कैन रिक्वेस्ट हिम, आप मत दीजिए ये. ठीक है, तो ये बात जो है आपके बाजू के 2-3 लोग सुनेंगे एंड इट विल मे शेक देयर कॉन्साइंस. ठीक है, उनको पता होता है, वो डेलिबरेटली भूल जाते हैं वो चीज़ कि नहीं, प्लास्टिक नहीं लेना चाहिए. तो इस तरीके से आप मतलब छोटे छोटे लेवल पे भी आप ये अवेयरनेस स्प्रेड करते हैं, तो मे बी इट विल ग्रो इनटू द लार्जर मूवमेंट. ठीक है, ओके. नेक्स्ट, एक्सक्लूजन फ्रॉम स्विफ्ट, व्हाट इट एंटेल्स. यस, ठीक है, इमरजेंसी जब होता है तो हम ऑफ कोर्स लेते हैं प्लास्टिक. ठीक है, बट दैट डज नॉट मीन कि आपने मतलब ट्राई नहीं करना चाहिए. ठीक है, खुद से डेलिबरेटली ट्राई जरूर करना चाहिए. यस, एक्सक्लूजन फ्रॉम द स्विफ्ट, व्हाट इट एंटेल्स. सो रिसेंटली यूरोपियन कंट्रीज एंड US had we can say that or excluded Russia from this SWIFT system, Society for Worldwide बैंक फाइनेंशियल टेलीकम्युनिकेशन, फुल फॉर्म भी याद रखना है हमें मेंस के लिए, ठीक है. सोसाइटी फॉर वर्ल्ड वाइड इंटरबैंक फाइनेंशियल टेलीकम्युनिकेशन. So what is this SWIFT? Let's understand that. It is a messaging network used by banks and financial institutions globally for quick and faultless exchange of information pertaining to the financial transaction. So it is just a messenger system. Okay, it is just a messenger system. Let me tell you how it works. Suppose there is one bank in US and one bank in India. So the account holder in Indian bank wants to do the transaction with the account holder in US bank. So how it works? Suppose the Indian person wants to send the money to the person in US. So that transaction first of all will be initiated by Indian bank. Indian bank will send one message to the SWIFT. The SWIFT will send that message to the bank in the US, and this Indian bank will have a particular code assigned by this SWIFT system. Each and every transaction that bank will be doing with that other bank will have this 8 number code with that transaction, and that will be verified by the other bank. तो इसका मतलब है कि ये जो फाइनेंशियल ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रहे हैं, they will be verified by this SWIFT. They will be verified by this SWIFT, and of course it will have certain data storage about these transactions. All these banks institutions can use that data. Okay, now headquarter is located in Belgium. Yes, it connects more than 11,000 banking and securities organizations in over 200 countries and territories. So majority of the financial institutions and banks, they are connected through this SWIFT. So it is a multilateral platform, financial platform we can say. Each participant on the platform is assigned unique 8-digit SWIFT code or the bank identification code. Okay, this is for prelims examination. It is merely a platform that sends messages and does not hold any securities or money. So this does not hold any security or money in those bank accounts or of those banks or financial entities. ठीक है? Yes. The SWIFT first used in 1973 went live in 1977 with 18 institutions in 22 countries initially, and it replaced the earlier we can say such global platform called as Telex. It was a little bit slow earlier. ठीक है, अगर ट्रांजैक्शन करना है तो 2 दिन लगते थे, 2 दिन 3 दिन लगते थे पहले, ठीक है, through this Telex. But now it is much we can say swifter. ठीक है, बहुत ही फास्ट ट्रांजैक्शन होता है. Okay, yes. Now let's understand what happens if one is excluded from this SWIFT. Now, as a majority of the global financial institutions and the central banks of these countries are the part of SWIFT, and in today's globalized world, everything happens through international financial transactions. Import, export, payment, or investments, global investments. So all these happens through the international platforms. And if the country is removed from that platform, so of course it will affect the import and export and investment into and outside that country. तो रशिया में ये सारा प्रॉब्लम होने वाला है अभी. And it is very difficult to build alternative system. It is going to be cumbersome. All countries will not agree to alternative system. ठीक है, some of the countries like China may agree for alternative system, but of course other countries will not agree for that, and it is going to be cumbersome. So that's why it is economically we can say negative impact for that country. ठीक है. Then are any countries excluded from SWIFT earlier? Yes, many Iranian banks were ousted from the system in 2018 after the sanctions, US led sanctions. Now how is the organization governed? ठीक है, तो ये कैसे गवर्न होता है? So yes, it is international platform which claims to be neutral platform, not favoring any country or bloc, and it is governed by board of governors or member of we can say the 25 member board. It is governed by this, and yes, the 3,500 firms across the globe, basically they are the shareholders of this, they elect these 25 members, okay, which is responsible for oversight and management of this company. So earlier it is regulated by G10 central banks of Belgium, Canada, majority of European and US country, ठीक है, उनके जो banks है, central banks. Later on these were joined by the Central Bank of India, that is RBI, Australia, Russia, ठीक है, तो ये भी उनके members है regulation में. And SWIFT Oversight Forum was established in 2012. The forum for discussion and oversight on all the international transactions. तो ये forum एक establish किया था उन्होंने. Fine, this much information is sufficient. There can be MCQ in prelims examination.
1 and 3 on C.
ठीक है? Yes, about SWIFT. बहुत SWIFT आंसर दे रहे हो. एग्जामिनेशन में थोड़ा सा पॉज लेना है वो राउंड करने से पहले, 2 बार थॉट देने का कभी भी, ठीक है. कुछ इजी होता है ना यूपीएससी के क्वेश्चन में, तो वो कंफ्यूज होता है कुछ तो, ठीक है, या फिर हम पढ़ने में थोड़ा सा ये होता है, मिस कर देते हैं, तो ज़रूर 2 बार उसको रीड करने का, कंफर्म करने के लिए, ठीक है. Yes, with reference to SWIFT, it is a messaging network used by banks and financial institutions globally. First statement is correct, right? Yes, second, it is headquartered in Paris. It is incorrect. Belgium. Okay, so the second statement is incorrect. It is merely a platform that sends messages. It does not hold. तो इसको confuse किया जा सकता है examination में third statement को, ठीक है. It holds certain stakes in those banks. ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है, ठीक है. तो this is in correct statement here. So 1 and 3 is the answer. C is the answer. Okay. Yes. Any question? ठीक है? Okay, fine. Let's stop.